It started with a game.
If everyone would just bag the noise, okay, we could do this.
Sonny, name one thing that's gotten better in the last 10 years.
Shall we play a game?
Video games.
All right, I acknowledge that.
Totally awesome video game!
Hi, welcome back to Game Writing 101. I thought I would do a video about a topic that I've had in mind for the channel, and also I got my hair cut today, so it looks okay, but it's as good a time as any to do a video when you get a nice fresh haircut, right? Great. I'm going to talk about something kind of serious, I guess, and hopefully, what I have to say isn't controversial or discouraging or anything like that. In fact, I want it to be encouraging. But I want to talk about having a social message in your story. In this case, of course, we're talking about video games. I guess it could apply to any story. There's a lot out there, a lot of, let's call it, conflict around the number of comic books and video games and other things, and how they're perceived by different audiences, especially when they attempt to have a strong social message. And I'm not at all going to get into, culture war stuff or anything like that. But I have some thoughts that I think for young, aspiring sort of narrative designer may help. And it's just really my opinion. I want you to just, like if you were to take any kind of class, you listen to somebody who's hopefully done this kind of stuff before, and you take it with a grain of salt and you consider it. And if there's anything you can take from it, great. Having a positive social message, and it's up to you. I'm not going to try to decide for you what's positive or what social message you should have in your game, if you have one at all. I do think it's okay just to make entertainment for entertainment's sake. Stephen King said, sometimes you have a theme you're working with, sometimes you don't. No big deal. I'm paraphrasing Stephen King. But by and large, I do think that stories will just sort of resonate with people more when there is some kind of a theme, social message, something. And so I think, having a positive social message somewhere in your story is good. As always, I'm always looking at my notes. I made that clear when we started the channel that I was going to have notes. But let me ask you something. Do you want that social message to be effective? Do you want it to be the most effective, it can be? Do you want to just preach to the choir? In other words, if you have a positive social message in your story, and it overshadows the story itself, and it comes off as just kind of a lecture or a character being on their soapbox and talking to the audience, as they say, then I do think that, you will get a lot of kudos and things from people who already believe in this message, who already, really are fans of that social message. They're already convinced, right? And that's okay. I'm not judging that at all. There's lots of valid reasons to like something, and if something has a great social message and you really love it, great. And if you want to preach to the choir, cool. That's a decision. But I think, as writers, we have to aspire to something better, right? If we want to continue to grow and be courageous, we want to aspire to more. Do you want that social message just to be preaching to the choir, or do you want to maybe reach other people? Get them thinking. Maybe you won't even change their mind, but get them thinking. And I submit to you that that's sort of the goal you should shoot for. Okay? Now let me plead my case. Coverage. You know what coverage is? When you write a screenplay, there's a million companies out there that will do what they call coverage. In other words, they will critique the screenplay for you. And people have been doing this in Hollywood for decades and decades. They have it down to a science. They, in fact, they have all these kind of forms, and before they get into just giving notes, they'll have lots of even just check boxes. And I have seen this on a coverage evaluation form. One of the boxes on there is, does the social message overshadow the story? It's a common, maybe let's call it flaw, or at least critique of screenplays. That's how common it is, right? So if you want your social message not to overshadow the story, right? Because nobody likes to be lectured to. Again, I talked about how maybe, if you're preaching to the choir loves it. But by and large, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, oh man, I hope mom and dad lecture me when I come down for breakfast. Oh man, I hope I get a lecture today at work. Oh man, I hope someone preaches to me about how to live my life while I'm waiting for the bus. No, nobody does that, right? Once more, they're coming to us for entertainment. They're coming from us because they want to escape their real life to one degree or another. They want to enjoy themselves and have fun. So I think the secret is show me, don't tell me. Show, don't tell. You'll hear this a lot with visual mediums, comic books, screenplays. It's a visual medium. Show, don't tell. And I think that applies to social messages as well. Don't tell me why being a vegetarian is really important. Don't just lecture me on vegetarianism. Sorry about the dog. Don't just lecture me. I'm going to try and get my wife to get her to stop barking here. Let's see. Don't just lecture me. Okay? Don't just tell me, because I'm going to tune out. Because I don't really want to be a vegetarian. I know already it's better for me. I mean, look at me. But I don't want to do it. But prove it to me in your story. Maybe it's a drama, and maybe it's a story, and maybe, there's two guys, and they're getting on in years, and they're best friends, and they're going to retire around the same time, and they got, all this stuff planned out, and they're going to go golfing and fishing and take trips, with their spouses, and they're really, and one of them's really excited because their first grandkid's on the way, and they're going to be retired, and they can spend lots of time with the grandkid, and then, he drops dead because they went to Buffalo Wild Wings too many times. It's like my favorite restaurant. I know it's very basic, but I love it. In fact, I saw an ad before recording this. I saw an ad that they have a new sauce, General Tso's sauce. I'm super excited about it. Anyway, and then maybe the other friend is it's very sad, it's very tragic, and so they're motivated to take care of themselves better. And maybe they have a health scare of their own, but then they turn the corner and they're living the dream. They're playing with their grandkids and they're doing things, and they miss their buddy. They miss their beer drinking, chicken wing eating buddy. But you start to get 50 and you start thinking about these things. That might sound kind of boring, but it would be kind of boring, right? But it's an example. Show me how this guy his life is over because he just didn't want to eat healthy, and then he's missing out on his life. Make it personal, even if it's just some big some big sort of epic story. Maybe you're saving the whole planet by turning everyone to vegetarian, but make it personal. Make it part of the story. Prove it. Show me, don't tell me, why your social message is vital, is important. And what'll happen, I think, is if we do it right, you've got the people who already love your social message and they're happy. That is a great story and a positive message. And maybe get people who are kind of on the fence, but it gets them thinking about why your social message is important. And maybe you got people that just hate the idea of they're just very opposed to your social message, but maybe they just gets them to think a little bit. Yeah, I know. I don't want to be a vegetarian, but maybe I should see the doctor. See how clogged my arteries are. No matter how passionate you are about a social message, because I think sometimes, not just with new writers, but with writers, sometimes if they we get very lofty and we're like, hi, story. Who cares about a story? I am talking about something much more important. Well, if you're talking about something that's that important, don't you want it to resonate with people? Don't you want it to be effective? If it's so important, don't you want people to really, think about it? And if you give them a great story where you're showing it, proving it, that's how you do it. Don't get me wrong, it's very hard. I don't think I've had a lot of experience doing this in video games. It's very difficult. And we're going to get it wrong. But if we're trying, then we'll get there. So something to think about. And again, please don't misconstrue that I think that social messages in games can be really important, especially these days and with comic books and everything else. But we got to prove it to our audience. If we're just having characters lecture at them, they're going to tune out. And we're not doing, I don't think we're doing our job as entertainers. Anyway, a little food for thought. Hopefully it's carrots and celery. I always ask at BW3, I say, hold the carrots and the celery. Let's not go through this facade. Let's not even pretend that any of that's getting eaten. Just bring me the blue cheese and the General Tso's Buffalo Wild Wings. All right, that's it. For me, I'm going to Las Vegas Friday for a wedding. I'll try to make these videos weekly. It depends on how busy I am or my mood. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Let me know if you're finding the channel useful, and you'll see me again soon.